my biggest learning at Deloitte has been about being able to be an effective fulcrum between a variety of client issues and a variety of experiences and skill sets and context from a market or geography perspective that Deloitte has from its platform across the world. I think the learning to become that effective median point between a variety of issues and a variety of solutions and make yourself useful in that manner. I think that has been my biggest learning at Deloitte, and continue to apply that in whichever part of my professional career. A turning point for me in my career, I can think of two. One was I joined Deloitte. I took on Deloitte as a client first. I was offering my services to. I was already working independently as an advisor to several clients. And when I met with the partners at Deloitte and they wanted to build out this practice in the north, I actually took on Deloitte as a client for the first part of my stint with Deloitte. So a turning point was when halfway through our agreed thing, my partner turned to me and said that, look, we think it's working out well for us. If you think if you feel the same, then you should come on board full time as opposed to working as a consultant with us. And I think that was a turning point because it was kind of a validation of that there's value on both sides is being recognized. So I think to some extent I see that as a turning point. I think the other one was around being involved in discussions with the leadership about how we could grow this practice, the technology, corporate finance practice, the kind of support we needed cross-border from the US, etc. And the kind of, working on the pitch to actually make a case for what would be needed from Deloitte as an investment or even as permissions for us to go after larger business cross-border. I think being part of those practice building discussions, that was another turning point for me. And it was more than just my everyday work, that's why. I think I missed the ability to go to a coffee break out. We don't exactly have that here. But jokes aside, I think being able to just walk across the hall and tap into a very wide pool of very, very smart, experienced people from a variety of facets, not just service areas and all that. And when I say walk across the hall, I mean figuratively, just be able to connect across the globe with people from different industries, from different practices. Being able to do that really quickly because of the strength of the Deloitte network, I think that is something you miss when you're in industry. You still have access to it, but it's not the same. Honestly, can't say I remember it verbatim, but the nature of advice was similar, that there is a lot that the concept of one Deloitte that was always talked about, there was a lot behind it, and it's not just lip service. So I remember the context in which this came up was that we needed to do a bunch of things which required participation from our Australia and Singapore offices, and for a client which had business interests there, headquartered in India, and work primarily across US and Europe. So being able to put together the market aspects, the regulatory aspects and all of that, just being able to leverage that, I think, don't be constrained by what you know. There's a lot of people in Deloitte with a lot of experience in a variety of areas that you can pull together. That's the nature of advice that I got, and it's really played out. It actually makes you think beyond, your own little shell and do a much better job of things. There's a bunch of them. So there's a whole lot of examples of deals or transactions that we either were trying to work on or discussed as a team internally that were too early at that point. But over the years, since I've moved from Deloitte, they've all played out in the market. There's a very recent investment by a very large conglomerate into a media house That's something that we analyzed as a case study, as a part of a learning exercise in the team. And it was interesting to see that it played out exactly the way that we discussed it in the room 2 years ago. So it kind of feels good, and I actually exchanged an email with Kalpana about that very example, and she had the same response, that she was remembering the case study that we did in the room when she read that report in the papers.